happen with the story. I don't know how the story's going to end, but it's going to be special. Welcome to my man cave. We're doing it. This is it. We've got a lot of requests on the comment sections in our videos of people that are wanting to see our trophy room. So this is kind of our first look inside of our trophy room. We have a lot of stories that you guys have seen unfold on camera, but we also have a lot that haven't. Real quick, I'll go through. We can start right here. We got Lefty. This deer was last year's kill, and he's coming out soon. He was 193 inches, really is like a 9-pointer. We got Bane right here. I'm sure you guys have seen that episode. If you haven't, be sure to check it on our YouTube. He was like a 163-inch 8-pointer. King Kong right here, the man himself, Zeus, 203. Just an absolute hoss. I mean, dream deer. I called this deer Big Papa. I actually shot this deer in college. He was like 151 inches. We actually have footage of that deer. It's kind of gruesome, kind of probably not meant for YouTube, but we'll see if we launch it anyways. But this deer is Achilles. He's actually a part of the story we're going to be telling today, but he was 177 inches as a typical. 4.5 years old. Hindsight in 2020, I wish I could have let him go to 5. There's no telling what he would have been, but how can you pass on a 170-inch deer? This deer right here, 150 inches. This was our first year filming with our Mossy Oak series. That was the buck I killed there. Pretty sweet deer. We got that episode up on our YouTube. This deer right here, really cool story behind that one. 156-inch deer. Shot that one in college. But the man that we're talking about today is the one that started it all here at Seek One, and we get asked a lot about Charlie, probably more than any buck. Charlie's the one that started it all, and here he is in all his glory, 183 inches as a 9-pointer. Probably the most prized deer, most special deer in my eyes. Very, very cool deer. Super crazy tine length, super tall brow tines, tall G2s. I actually named this deer Charlie Brow, because kind of like Charlie Brown, I named him Charlie Brow because he always had super tall brow tines. People ask me that a lot too. Why Charlie? Usually we name our deer after something stupid. So that's how we got his name. Anyways. Oh yeah, cool thing too. That's actually Charlie's antler in our logo, upside down. That's where it started it all. So we're gonna jump into that story right now. A lot of you guys that have known us from the beginning know that this was our first step into the filming world, kind of the first glimpse. But for those of you that are newer to our channel, this is the one that really started it all for us here in Atlanta. This is the first story we ever captured on film. We launched a trailer for this deer, and to be honest with you, we really didn't know what we were doing. We had no plan for it. We just did it for fun. And the little backdrop on that is that of how that actually happened is that Drew the year before was hunting like I think the deer ended up being like 205, and he hunted it like crazy the whole season, poured a lot of his, basically his soul into that deer, and didn't happen for him, and he had a tough year. And the next year he was like, he knew I was on a giant, and he was getting into the filming and the photography. He's like, you know what, I want to tell a story about you hunting this deer. Some of the stories we have that have unfolded in Atlanta are just, you can't make them up, and they're too good to not be told. So he was like, I want to capture this on camera. We were into the Heartland Bow Hunter. We were into the Donnie Vincent series films, telling the story about one deer, and Charlie was that deer for us. The story of Charlie is basically it's really like a 4-year journey. And the last year that we actually ended up taking the deer, Drew was with me every sit. We sat, I don't know, 40 or 50 times. It was a long, long journey of a lot of sits, a lot of time. Captured the whole thing on film, put together this really cool trailer for you guys. And if y'all haven't seen it, we'll go ahead and play it right now. I think the city has a way of changing people, trapping them in a life fabricated by society. Everyone needs an escape, a way to get back in touch with the roots of human nature. For us, this escape is bow hunting the suburbs. Welcome to Atlanta. Just beyond the city, the Chattahoochee River intertwines with the massive sprawl of suburbs, where white-tailed deer have begun to thrive. Guarded from hunting pressure by neighborhoods and commercial property, only the most persistent have gained access. We have, and this is our story. We thought we were just seeking a deer, but what we found was much greater.
And Charlie is standing 15 yards away from me, looking at me. And we had a 3-second stare down at each other, and then he trotted off up the hill.
You recognize this guy?
Last time he showed up was 5 days ago at daylight on this screen right here. He hasn't showed up since, so I know he's due to come through.
You're not gonna believe this.
What?
Hunt for Charlie's done. It's him, and he's dropped his rack, and he's lost probably 40 pounds. I mean, he was the only deer I wanted to hunt, so I'll call my season. My season's done. I have been waiting for this day for so long. So that trailer was really our first step into the filming world. Again, this is something that we had no plan on doing, but what ended up happening was it grabbed the attention of some companies, one of those being Mossy Oak. And, you know, at the time filming this, we had no sponsors. And so I think I was wearing like a Mossy Oak hat for most of the season. I think I was wearing some other brand camo shirt or something, and then maybe like Mossy Oak pants. And when Mossy Oak approached us after they saw this trailer about doing an online series for them, we signed a contract with them and kind of asked them, we're like, hey, you know, what do we do with this footage? We're in other camos and stuff like that. And they're like, you know what, the trailer was great, but if you're gonna be on board with us, you know, we want you to just kind of keep that footage yourself. So that's why we never really did a full-blown episode on this deer. We have a lot of respect for Mossy Oak. We love those guys, and so we never wanted to do anything that would upset them. But that being said, we are going to show unseen footage with respect to Mossy Oak. We're not going to show everything because of those conflicts, but we're going to do our best to basically tell the story of Charlie, which was our first step into this world. So all that being said, all that being seen, let's jump into the first steps, first pictures I ever got of Charlie, take you through the process to all the way up to the day of when I took him. So let's get into the journey. So we're taking it back, but really the journey started with Charlie in 2012. I had a spot that was, as the crow flies, probably 3 miles from where I ended up taking him. And I got like 2 or 3 pictures, just like randomly in September, October, I can't remember what month it was. And he was like a 160-inch 10-pointer, really good deer, young deer. Never got pictures of him again in 2012. Fast forward to 2013, and this picture starts going around, and it's basically a picture of Charlie standing in a parking lot. And so this picture starts getting sent around, and I've got kind of ideas of where the area is. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's an apartment complex. I've got a general area, so I started driving out all these apartment complexes. And after probably a couple weeks of searching, I actually was able to match where the exact picture was taken. And so from that point on, I had a location of where Charlie was. So the next step was started studying all the properties adjacent, all the property lines, started knocking on doors, launching a permission campaign, and I probably knocked on, I don't know, 20, 30 different doors, and finally got one place that was really a long hardwood ridge, and it was covered in oak trees, but it's just kind of a steep ridge, and it goes all the way down to a creek bottom. And this is the first place I got, put a camera out, and after, I don't know, 2 weeks of running a camera, boom, I get my first pictures of Charlie. And that was late January 2013. And so he vanished at that spot, kind of February-ish, probably headed to his summer spot where he summers out, and ran a camera there all summer, never saw pictures of him. Fast forward to the next year, and I have no pictures of Charlie. This is probably September timeframe. And I got another deer, Achilles, which is actually right behind me. He was a 177-inch, just typical 11-pointer. And he had all of my attention. I had really great pictures of this deer. And I spent my entire season dedicated to Achilles. So, September, October, November, and that's actually a really cool story in itself. I'll probably tell that story in our next series of these trophy room videos. But it took me pretty much the entire season to meet up with Achilles, multiple encounters, and got it done. And so after I'd finished the story with Achilles, I go to where I had my camera out for Charlie, and I hadn't been over there in months. And I pull this card, and the pictures I got were unreal of just Charlie framing up for this camera, and he was an absolute freaking giant. I've got a lot of good buddies, and I've sent this picture around to a bunch of them, and we were trying to give our best estimates of what he scored, and we think that he was probably grossing around 190 as a typical 10-pointer, probably netting around 180, and that would have annihilated the state record typical archery for Georgia. So I've just taken Achilles. My focus is now back on Charlie because he's a mega giant. The deer I just killed was a giant. Charlie is a mega giant. And so I hunted the whole rest of that season up until probably the second week of December, and I go to check my camera, and I'll never forget walking into this place, pulling the card, pulling it into my computer, and I'm scrolling through pictures, and I see some bucks, I see some does, whatever, and I remember seeing a deer that was not a doe, but it didn't have antlers. And it caught my eye, and I was just my heart sank. I remember in my head, I was just like, that's Charlie. And typically our deer drop their racks in earliest February, usually more towards late February and March. But second week of December, he had dropped his rack. His body was really frail and skinny. He had lost a lot of weight, and I knew that he was sick. I didn't really know what caused it, but I knew that something wasn't right. And when these deer get sick, especially later in the season, they go into basically survival mode. And one of their instincts is to, especially with Charlie, with having such a heavy rack on his head, his body went into survival mode and he dropped his rack. And I remember seeing that pictures and just being devastated and basically saying in my mind, my season is done. I'm completely done. I'm not hunting anymore. I'm not thinking about any other deer. My only focus is to get a feeder in here. I'm gonna feed Charlie. I'm gonna try and get him through the season. Winter's not over, and I'm really concerned that Charlie's not even gonna make it through the year at this point. And so I fed and fed and fed, and I was feeding really high fat content protein feed. And I guess these deer are survivors, and he made it. But he disappeared again in February, March time frame. And I don't know where he goes. This is from basically October to January. I know where he's at. He loves this place I'm at, but I don't know where he goes the rest of the year. And so I go back on that campaign again. I'm going back in my head. Where haven't I looked? Where should I be looking? Where could he have possibly gone? I'm studying old pictures, everything. And my mind goes back to the apartment complex. I remember looking down this hill in this gully in this kudzu patch, and I just saw like a 140-inch 10-pointer kind of like walking through the kudzu. All I saw was just his head and his rack kind of going through. And then, like, I remember, I'll never forget it, that behind him, I saw more movement, and I just saw freaking gargantuan antlers coming through this kudzu patch. And immediately I knew it was him. And I flipped out. Like, I think that we actually have a clip where I'm filming and I found him for the first time, and we have this just kind of like stare off.
Oh my God. I found you, Charlie. One more month and you and I got a meeting, my friend.
And then he bounds off this hill and goes down into this kudzu patch. And that basically started this journey of getting incredible footage, just like National Geographic type footage of Charlie in this kudzu patch. He lived here in the summertime. This is where he absolutely thrived in the summer, because kudzu, it gives him all the cover they need. He had all the food he needed. There was a creek that came through. He had water. He had everything he needed in this place. And it was just a protected little shelter for him. We could go over there basically any time of the day, get on these apartment complexes up high and glass with our binoculars and see racks sticking out of the kudzu. And he would probably get up 10, 20 times a day, feed around for a few minutes, lay back down. And that's what his life was in the summertime.
I don't know what's going to happen with this story. I don't know how the story's going to end. But it's going to be special. I mean, even just seeing this deer, this caliber, even if we don't kill him, is going to be cool.
So now that I've found his summer hideout, my mind immediately shifts to deer season rolling around, opening day. I've found where he's at. I've got to get permission to hunt. And so I got permission from the apartment complex to film and run cameras and take pictures, all we wanted. But taking that next step into getting hunting permission was really, really, really tough. And I pulled out all the stops. I met with the owners, I met with the management companies. I did everything that I possibly could to try and get hunting permission in this place. And after a couple months, of begging and pleading, I got a firm no, and realized that it was not going to happen there, that getting access to his summer hideout just wasn't going to happen. And so we watched him all summer, crazy footage. Fast forward to opening day deer season 2015. I drive over the kudzu patch, I know he's there, and I watched the opening Saturday and the opening Sunday. I watched him in the kudzu patch, and in my mind, I'm like, if I get permission here, that's the tree I'm gonna hang my stand in. And permission didn't happen, but Charlie was there, and I watched him that Saturday and that Sunday evening, opening weekend, walk right by the tree that I'd chosen to put my stand in. And I couldn't do anything except sit there and watch at 150 yards this deer that I had put so much time and effort into. Plan A, being able to hunt the kudzu patch, didn't work out. Plan B, I've got to head him off. I know where he's living at, so I can keep eyes on him, know that he's still around. So whenever he's ready to leave that kudzu patch, and again, I didn't really know at what time, but I knew that when he left, I knew where he was going. And so what I did at this place that I had permission on this hillside was I went in and I put in a food plot, and I had this thing jam up. I spent tons and tons of time manicuring this food plot, running a hose from the back of the house. I bought I don't know, 400 feet of hose, just crazy amount of hose, ran it from the back of the house all the way down this hillside to basically water this food plot almost every other day, every 3-4 days. Got this food plot really, really lush. And I always had my camera in there on a scrape that I would always call Charlie's favorite scrape. And I had this scrape perfect. I put our mock scrape stuff in there, had a scrape going. Other smaller bucks had started to take to it. And I knew that when Charlie came in there and saw that scrape was active, in years past, he had dominated that scrape, and I knew he was gonna take to it. My goal with the food plot was to just keep does there. There was a group of does in that area, and that's why Charlie left that kudzu patch and came to me during October, November, is because he was going to find those does, and I had them by me. So that food plot, I didn't care if Charlie came in and ate in it. All I wanted to do was keep does there. And so we had our stands hung, and we hunted, and in that one, kind of just odd off chance that he showed up. And we really realized, again, this is kind of we're still really learning all this stuff. And so we realized we were doing more harm than good hunting this place. We were bumping deer out, especially those does. And we were like, we've got to stop. We've got to keep these does in here. And I'm not going to hunt until the time is right.
So yeah, my food plot made it about 2 weeks before it absolutely got destroyed. I'm trying to patch it up with wheat now, keep them coming in, but oh my God. Dude, he showed up midday.
It was a matter of us being there at the right place at the right time. And when he started showing up in daylight, the cat and mouse game ensued. Drew and I were always rushing over there, sitting as many times as we could. And it was like every time that we were not there, he would come through, hit that scrape, and move on. And so, I mean, over 2 or 3 weeks of this happening, what are the odds that it's like, we hunt. He doesn't show. We don't hunt, and he shows. What are the odds of that happening over and over and over again? These deer have to know something. I really believe sometimes we don't give these deer enough credit for how in tune they are with their environment, especially in these smaller places. So we hunted this place like crazy in the stands that we had hung, and again, we're learning all through this process, and basically we get to a point where we're like, hey, it's not working here, something's got to change. So we actually took our stands down, and I was like, we got to get way higher, we got to get out of sight. I think if it's a visual thing, we got to get way high to he's not seen us. If it's a scent thing, we got to get even higher to where our scent's blowing over him. So we move our stands way up the hilltop, all the way at the top, and it wasn't 3 or 4 sits of making that change. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there, and I remember it was like a middle of November. I think it was like November 14th or 15th, if I remember correctly. And I remember it's morning, it's dead calm, it's dead still, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, there's not a ton of deer in this area. I'm like, is this gonna be another sit where we see nothing? And so it's calm, first hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, nothing. And then all of a sudden I see it down this hillside, and I don't know where he came from, but all of a sudden he was there. And I just saw a rack coming right up this hill, right at me. And he stops and he thrashes in his scrape for a minute. He throws his head up and hits his scrape, and he comes into the food plot. He's kind of munching around. And so he comes in, he walks up the hill, he's looking up at the house, and then he kind of walks and turns left. And in just a split second, as soon as he got behind some brush, I came to draw, and in just an instant, let the arrow fly. It's almost impossible to really tell the story in a way that gives it justice to how much we pour into these deer, how much time, effort, and just really countless hours, and how much it just consumes us. These deer mean so much more to us than just at a surface level. We put so much time, and it's such a passion of ours. We love this chase so much. And for it to finally come together after 4 years, I just remember being so overwhelmed, and it was just, there were so many different emotions that were just tugging on me that I just let it all out. And I remember tearing up and thanking God, and it was just such a powerful moment for me. And what's really cool too is, again, I've been hunting this place for 3 years, and so these landowners are pretty familiar with me. I've hunted the dickens out of this place, and so they've gotten to know me personally. There's a relationship there now, and so every time I'd come out of the woods, they'd be like, hey, have you had any luck? Have you had any luck? Have you got him? Have you got him? They were wanting it to happen just as much as I was, and so I was so happy to go up that morning and knock on their door and tell them that it had finally happened. And I remember they started crying. I'd already gotten my tears out. They hadn't, so they started crying when I told them that. And they brought us inside and cooked us breakfast, and we sat there and gave Charlie plenty of time while we sat there and ate scrambled eggs and bacon and drank some coffee. And really thankful to those people. That it's homeowners like that that allow us to pursue our passion. And so we're always really thankful to them, and a deeper relationship happens than just someone's letting you hunt here. So we go to track this deer, and I remember being on pins and needles because we're not finding much blood. And I'm really nervous. Did I screw it up? Is the hit bad? Is he still alive? What's going on? And we track and we track and we track. And just when I got to that point of like, this could be bad, I remember looking up this hillside, and I just remember seeing like a beam of sunlight just like shining through his rack, and I just lost it. I just remember going nuts and running up that hill and running to him, and it was such a surreal moment to have watched that animal for 4 years and finally have him in front of me. It was such a rewarding feeling, and that is what we live for. That is why we do what we do, for those moments right there. It's what makes it all worth it.
Oh my God. He's huge.
Finally, man, 3 years.
I have been waiting for this day for so long. I cannot believe this. The freaking brow died.
Thank the Lord.
Oh my God. I'll never forget turn my head up and seeing him.
In a nutshell, that's the story. When all was said and done, we had this trailer done, it was out there. We really thought it was a pretty cool experience, not just to have something cool out there, but just the whole story and how it went down, to capture everything on film and be able to share that story. We think that these are stories worth sharing, and so we're happy to do that. It really drove us to the next level to find that next story, find that next giant deer that people just can't believe are coming from it. This is the city of Atlanta, and we wanted to go tell a story about it. And so Charlie is really the foundation for Seek One, and basically our passion to go find just a unique animal in a unique place and tell the story about it. And being able to share these stories with guys, I hope that it encourages that next high school kid that just learned to drive, or that guy's in college that's always wanted to get into the hunting world but never really knew how or never had a place. I hope it encourages those people to go knock on a door and get a place that you can really learn and learn to love that place and be excited to go hunt there, and hopefully have a really cool story unfold for you guys too. So that's it. That's the story of Charlie. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be doing more of these stories for you. Stay tuned for those, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.